Now it's time to take a quick look at the V60 T5 Cross Country. And this is almost identical to some of the other Volvo products we did, so I don't want to just keep rehashing a lot of the same things. But instead, I'm going to give you a brief pros and cons list of why you would choose this, more than likely to lease or to buy used, than some of the other competitors. So let's get started. The highlights, the interior design, the aesthetic design. This is more and more rare in the automotive industry because every single manufacturer wants to have everything modular. So every single car tends to be very generic. This has a sense that there was interior designers, there were people that were very skilled in material choice, diversity of materials, and it feels very modern. It feels very clean without being insanely sterile like what you see from Audi and BMW and some of the German brands. It has its own unique personality, and I think if you're of the age and you're the type of person that values this in a car that you're in every day, it's one of the best in the industry at an affordable price range until you start going to some crazy boutique price tag. Now, aesthetics are one thing, but solidness is another. When you shut these doors, you feel like you're in a cocoon. There's no doubt. I was driving on the road and I thought I could probably get hit by a semi in here and survive. And that's a big thing of what Volvo's trying to sell, is that feeling, that confidence you get, the safety element. And if you're somebody that values that over other stuff, well, this might be the car for you. The other part is the audio system, and I've talked about this now in every Volvo product. Those cars or SUVs equipped with the Bowers and Wilkins audio is the best stuff we've tested. Basically for under $70,000. It is so good that I literally found myself sitting in this car driving it more often just to listen to music. And if you're somebody that loves that experience, maybe you don't have home audio because you just don't have the money or you don't have the time, you want to get in here, Bluetooth sounds good. Your Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, USB, it sounds amazing. And when you get out of something like the Ford Escape I just got out of, it's one of the worst audio systems we tested. When you start to hear it back to back and test these objectively and subjectively, you appreciate it even more. And if I had an award to give, I'd give them an award for it so they could stick it in their trophy case. Now there are some negatives here, and this is the first Volvo I've been in that has some squeaks and rattles, and there's some rattles coming from the back too. And I'm gonna give it a pass here because it's the first time I've experienced it, and secondly, it's been sub-zero. So the expansion and contraction of all the plastics, the clips, it could be part of that. The other thing is the leather in here. I mean, this is like this beige color and everything looks really bad. I mean, I don't see a total discoloration like some cars, but you can definitely see like where jeans have stained the beige. So you probably would want to go towards the darker interior. And then the last part to talk about, as great as the audio system is, the infotainment, they have done over-the-air updates. So it has improved the speed and usability of it, but it still has the same problems with lagginess, controlling like seat heaters, seat coolers. Namely, when the car starts up, it's really slow, changing the temperature still slow. That's a big problem for me. And I know they're addressing it with the next generation infotainment where Google's co-designing it. But if you're buying this, just know that you got to use it and see if you can deal with that going forward. Now the cross country, obviously it looks tough, but what you have is the wagon and the hatch. And I know, why would you want that? Because you can just get an SUV. Well, this has a ton of cargo capacity, and I really did try to test it out. I loaded some furniture in here, I put the seats down, and the only negative part about it is the actual height. Because, you know, it's more of a car proportion, but literally most people are gonna fit anything they possibly could want in here and still have a ton of room in the back seat. And I really appreciate that about this, and it's one of the best parts about this body style that you're gonna use and enjoy for years to come. But let's take this for a drive and see how it is. Volvo V60 T5. All right, I think I'm going to start out by highlighting probably the worst thing about the modern Volvos. There's a lot of good things, but the New engine architecture, they went to all 4 cylinders, and they did this for a few reasons. Global emissions, fuel efficiency standards, and to stay in business. The idea of having one base 4-cylinder engine that you can kind of change around, they have a turbocharged version, turbocharged supercharged version, and turbocharged, supercharged, and a hybridization version of all of that together. And the benefits are they can have that engine built on one assembly line. Doesn't matter what it is, they don't have to have multiple factories for the same motors. It can all come out of the same place, and that means they are saving money and able to more efficiently build vehicles by doing that. Now, understanding that is one thing. When you're buying a car like this, everything about it is so refined, it's so comfortable, it's so modern. And then you hear the vacuum cleaner that is under the hood, and it just drags down the whole experience. And I'm gonna say that's just the worst thing about driving this, because everything else is so satisfying. The ride quality is pretty good. It's 80th percentile. They haven't resorted to any crazy dampers or anything that's off the deep end expensive. The isolation that you get from the road, this is an ultra quiet driving experience. You feel and hear literally nothing. It is so comfortable. And when you add in the fact that the safety systems like radar cruise control works extremely well, this is one of the better safety systems on the market, and then you add in the $4,000 Bowers & Wilkins audio system, which is the only way that I would buy this car, this becomes an absolutely serene driving experience. It's become one of my favorite cars to drive if I had to drive something every single day. You have the practicality, the usability, and the ride comfort's great, but it's set up for safety. Safety first with Volvo. So when you're driving this harder, you're gonna notice it definitely wants to understeer. It will never rotate its rear end around. It doesn't matter what drive mode you pick. And I had a chance to play around with this in the snow. And in the snow, it would just terminally plow. It literally wants to take you into the ditch when you're driving it. So I played around with drive modes. Dynamic helps a little bit because it's transferring a little bit more. It's more rear biased. But the best way to do it is to turn the electronic stability control into the sport setting on the touchscreen, go into dynamic, and that was the best way I could get through snow. Then you could rotate through turns. The car didn't always want to plow. The stability control system didn't always want to come in and take over. It just felt much better. So I feel like the stability control calibration is a little bit fickle or sensitive on this, but really, from a drivability standpoint, you are absolutely going to love to drive this. And in terms of acceleration, I don't think anybody is really gonna, if you're gonna get this as a commuter, it's just about the right amount of horsepower. You're never gonna feel like you don't have enough power to merge or to get on the highway. And the benefit of, if you don't get on the throttle, since you have a 4-cylinder, the fuel economy tends to be pretty good if you're driving like a good boy or good girl, or if you're, gender neutral or whatever, you're not an identity yet, you're still going to get 27, 28 miles per gallon. And I think that alone, as a daily driver, makes this so compelling. But I think the main thing is the cost. The cost to own, the depreciation. I think when you look at this as a whole, this is an absolute lease vehicle. Given the complexity of the motor, specifically when you get into the T8s, you want to lease this. Now, I think is a good time to get into the final thoughts and sum up most of the things that I've talked about. Final thoughts on the V60 Cross Country. Now, I've already done a full video on the V60 wagon, which you can check out. There's more detail there. The main difference between this and that, well, this has a little bit higher ground clearance and more plastic body paneling for those who like to seek adventure. Or in my case, adventure finds me. I can't tell the difference, honestly. I mean, there's a little bit better command of the road, and the ground clearance you can tell from the wheel gap more than anything. But this isn't gonna replace a full-blown SUV, but it's not trying to, because proportionately the exterior looks like it's not trying too hard.
It has a great shape to it. And unlike many of these SUVs and CUVs that are just, they look so awkward, this doesn't. It has that classic long lines of a wagon that most people don't care about anymore, but it still has the usability of that, and it drives like a car, like a very smooth riding car. I've talked about it to death. It's quiet, comfortable, and all of that. The negatives are the engine. You know, they went to 4 cylinders across their entire lineup. I already explained why, and then some. It's a downer, it really does. It hampers the driving experience. The transmission, torque-converted transmission that's in here is definitely not on par with the German competitors like Mercedes, BMW, and Audi. It doesn't really compare. I would say, you know, it's even up slightly below what Lexus is doing with their 8-speed. So again, drivetrain is not the highlight, but everything else is so rewarding and so satisfying that I would absolutely say, if you're in the market for a luxury car that's not insanely expensive and you get a lot for your money here, definitely lease it. I think you'll be really happy with it for a couple years if all you do is commute and you just want the more smooth things in life. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.